Good evening, judge and jury. You have all been gathered here today while we dissect the accusations that have been made against my client, Scorpio. And while I would like the record to state that my client, Scorpio, doesn't really give a shit what you think, as his lawyer, it's important that I represent him in this case and defend his honor against these outlandish accusations. These accusations include things like sadism, sneakiness, secretiveness, jealousy, control issues, suspicion, paranoia, aggression, stinging, death, and even sex. As I plead this case on behalf of my client, I'm sure you will see what the truth to these accusations actually is and determine that my client, Scorpio, is indeed not guilty. Stay tuned. Okay, so the first charge that we're going to address with Scorpio is going to be sadism. Now, what is sadism? Sadism is when you just take pleasure in hurting other people, basically. So a lot of times, people can misunderstand the Scorpio energy and think that they're just, out to fucking hurt everybody. But that's not really the case. Scorpio energy is not here to destroy you. Scorpio energy is here to destroy the ego. And the ego actually holds you back in life. Like the ego is what causes a lot of problems in our life. Like, think about it. When a Scorpio is starving you for attention, what is that teaching you? That is teaching you not to need the validation and approval of other people, to find that own validation within yourself. So they're starving you for attention because they can sense the difference of when something is coming from your heart and when something is coming from your ego. So a lot of times they might choose not to feed your ego because it's running rampant, and at the end of it is really going to bring you down and have you constantly depending on other people for validation. All right. What are some other ways that the ego can hurt us? So the ego can make us scared of our insecurities, hide from our shadow side, hide from our weaknesses, stuff those things deep inside and be scared to look at them. So, one of the toughest things to deal with is Scorpio energy really knows how to just get in there and pinpoint your insecurities and pull that shit out. And it is uncomfortable. I don't like that. I don't like that feeling either. It is uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, what are they doing? They're taking your secret fears, your hidden fears, and bringing them to the light and bringing them out. When you bring something out to the light, you take away its power. So eventually you can just learn when it comes to your insecurities and when it comes to parts of yourself that you're scared of, you can just learn to embrace it and own that shit and just be you. So another way that the ego can hurt us is a lot of times it can just kind of run the show. So, our mouth can be quicker than our minds or our hearts sometimes, like to really sit back and think about something. So we might just be saying stuff just for the sake of saying it or just to sound good or to sound cool. But when you really get down to the bottom of it, it's BS. So Scorpio energy will test your confidence. And they will do this in maybe like little indirect ways or little subtle comments. If you're talking about a subject, they might challenge you a little bit or dig a little bit deeper just to see, like, are you really speaking facts? Are you really talking from the heart? Are you really talking about some knowledge? Or are you just straight bullshitting? Because if you're bullshitting, guess what? That's the ego. You're just talking just to talk. And Scorpio energy doesn't play that shit. And really, you shouldn't either. So what this is going to do when they test your confidence is this is going to teach you to stand on your own. It's going to teach you to, take a moment to pause before you say something. Make sure you got your facts straight and make sure you're coming from the heart or you're coming from someplace real. So at the ends of it, you're going to be a very confident individual because you learned that tactics. So these are just a few examples of how Scorpio is in fact not sadistic. They are actually helping you conquer your ego, because your ego is holding you back and they don't want anything to hold you back. Scorpio energy is the phoenix rising from the ashes. So you got to get rid of that dead weight of the ego so you can do that. So as to the charge of sadism, my client Scorpio is going to plead not guilty. And he would like to add to that, by destroying your ego or helping you to destroy your ego, you're welcome. Okay, so we are at day 2 of the Scorpio trials, and today we are going to address the second charge of sneakiness. So this will be a rebuttal to count 2 sneakiness. Now, the problem with this charge is going to be the negative connotation associated with the word sneakiness. So let's break it down. What is sneakiness? Sneakiness is doing something behind the scenes. So Scorpio comes out of the 8th house. This is the behind the scenes realm. Not everything in this world is what we see with our own 2 eyes, or what we touch, taste, and feel, and all that. There's other things going on behind the scenes. So Scorpio energy, this is where it's in this realm, in the behind the scenes realm. And this is also where we get associations like darkness with Scorpio. So darkness is not evil, darkness is not bad, darkness is just, you can't see it, the lights are off, it's behind the scenes. So why is this a bad thing? Why is this so-called sneakiness a bad thing? If you think about it, what is the director of a movie doing? He's doing something behind the scenes to make a beautiful production for you. So would you call the director of a movie sneaky? Also, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and Mars is the planet of taking action and going for what you want. And do you think Mars is gonna stop for a second and say, hey, I'm thinking about going for this goal. Is that okay with you? How do you feel about it? No, they would never get anything done like that. So Mars is all about just going for what you want, taking action, and getting the job done. And then at the end, all is usually revealed at the end. So that is my rebuttal to the count 2 of sneakiness, and my client would once again like to plead not guilty. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and address count 3, jealousy. So my client Scorpio has been accused of being highly jealous, and I'm here to rebuke this statement and explain it for what it really is. Okay, so to say that somebody is jealous, you really need to think about what that means. If you say that somebody is jealous, that means they want to be you, they want something that you have, they want to be another person, something like that. Let's get it straight. Scorpio is fixated on its own emotional state. It does not give a shit about being like anybody else, okay? So for this rebuttal, for this accusation of jealousy, I am going to exhibit a demonstration, okay? So let's take a look at this plate. Now we have a pretty pink, a blue, and a yellow. So let's take the pink and blue and mix it together. So what happens when we mix those colors together? Wow, we have a beautiful purple color. Isn't that pretty? Now what happens when pink goes and mingles with yellow and then comes back to purple? Ugh, it's getting kind of icky, isn't it? What color is that? That's a muddy, icky color. So this is exactly what Scorpio is trying to do with your pink and their blue. They're trying to protect your beautiful purple color and stop you from tainting that bond with this icky yellow. So for the charge of jealousy, my client is going to plead not guilty, and you should be happy that somebody cares so much. You're welcome again. Okay, so for count 4 of controlling tendencies, it's not Scorpio's fault that God put them in charge. If everybody would just listen and get with the program, everything could go smoothly. So not guilty, God put them in charge, that's that. Okay, so next we're going to address count 5 of suspicion and paranoia. So paranoia is basically thinking there's some kind of conspiracy going on behind the scenes. And let's not forget that the behind the scenes is the realm where Scorpio rules. And then, being suspicious about it and trying to bring the truth to light, digging deep and getting to the bottom of it. So it's only paranoia if you are not right. So we still have not settled that, and we don't know for sure. So my client is going to have to go ahead and plead not guilty to that. And also my client would like to state for the record, what are you hiding? Okay, so the next charge that we are going to address in these proceedings is going to be the charge of high sexuality. So Scorpio has been accused of being very highly sexual individuals, that they think all problems can be solved through sex, that it's the only thing on their mind 24/7, and it's really just all they care about. So for this count of high sexuality, my client is going to go ahead and plead guilty. Cuff him. Okay, so now I'm going to address count 7. Now, this charge is going to be in regard to the Scorpio sting. And if anybody has ever been intimately involved with a Scorpio, then you know exactly what that motherfucking sting is. And I shouldn't have to explain it to you, because it's like an ice pick straight to the nerve in your heart. That's what a Scorpio sting is. So they really know how to get in there and hit that spot. So, it has been accused, Scorpio has been accused of just going around stinging people just for the hell of it, just for the F of it, to have a little fun or whatever. But let's think about it for a minute. So how does a Scorpio have a stinger? Because they're represented by the scorpion. And the scorpion animal, it has that venom in its tail to sting a predator, right? So it's to sting something or somebody to let them know, like, hey, don't F with me. So one thing about this venom is that if you're ever hit with that Scorpio stinger, which if you're close to one, you will be, if you're ever hit with that venom, and if you were to send it to the lab and put it under a microscope, you might be a little surprised when the scientists reveal that venom is laced with your very own medicine, okay? So 9 times out of 10, when you get stung by a Scorpio, you had it coming. It may be a little bit out of proportion to the initial act or whatever was done, but sometimes in life, like, we don't really realize how we've hurt people, or ways that we've been inconsiderate, or ways that the ego was running the show. Sometimes we don't learn until we get a dose of our very own medicine. So for count 7 of stinging, my client is going to go ahead and plead not guilty, and this is going to be the defense of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Okay, so for count 8, we are going to address the Scorpio ice out. So Scorpios can be known to be a bit cold or emotionally detached and just like cold, like an iceberg. But let's get one thing straight. Scorpio is a water sign. So they are emotional, sensitive, intuitive, nurturing, caring, things like that. This reputation for coldness comes in because, for one thing, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, which is the planet of assertion and aggression and go to war and, go for what you want. And for another thing, probably the bigger issue here is that the moon, which is the planet of emotion, in our yin realm, like our feminine, nurturing, caring warmth, it falls in Scorpio. So what does that mean that the moon falls? It means that the moon is weakened here. Those attributes are weakened. So while they still exist, it may be very difficult for Scorpio to verbalize their emotions because or show or demonstrate their emotions because of the moon falling in Scorpio. So please don't get it twisted. They're not necessarily cold. And also, they could be very sensitive. And when they do connect with somebody, they're going to feel that very intensely. So there's going to be, a lot of intensity that comes along with that if they do get emotionally attached to you, which is why, they're going to have that little bit of ice to protect both of you. And it's just highly vulnerable for them to express emotion. It is going to go against their nature and be very uncomfortable. So if you have a Scorpio that's doing that with you, you should feel very honored and take that as a sign that they're really something special there with you. So for the charge of coldness, my client is going to plead not guilty. They have feelings. They're just below the surface, deep down, like an iceberg.
Okay, so the next charge that we're going to address is the charge of intensity. My client Scorpio has been accused of being way too intense. And in order to state my case and defend my client, I'm going to go ahead and circle back to the last video when we talked about the moon being in fall in Scorpio. So while reactions, emotions, things like this are weakened, we could also say they're sleeping. So it's like they're in a sleep state, and that includes their reactions. So, for the most part, Scorpios are pretty laid back and chill and easy to get along with. If you're having intense reactions that are not so pleasant, you need to start being careful of how you're waking them up. Think about it. When you wake somebody up soft and gentle, hi darling, please, it's time to get up. You hear the birds chirping. Then they're going to wake up with a smile. They're going to wake up calm and relaxed. And it's going to be a pleasant experience. If you come to somebody sleeping with some panicky energy, wake up, time to get up. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like a bear, coming out of its hibernation. Like, what the hell are you doing? So is that same type of scenario. If you don't like the intense reactions that you're getting from Scorpio, maybe you should consider the way that you're waking them up, the way that you're arousing their emotions, and be a little bit more gentle and calm to get a more pleasant experience. So for the charge of intensity, my client will go ahead and take the guilty charge for this one, but it can also be a pleasant type of intensity depending on how you wake them up. So once again, it's on you. Okay, so this last count may be a little bit beyond my jurisdiction, but I am going to try and speak on it from the heart and with all due respect for what this topic is. So the final count is going to be my client Scorpio has been charged with being associated with death. And if you've ever been involved with a Scorpio, if you've ever had a Scorpio loved one, you can know that if you lose them, you go through a little miniature death inside. And I think it's because like Scorpio energy, they really see you and parts of you that nobody else noticed. And to lose that, it's like losing a part of yourself. It's like a part of yourself dying. And I think the reason for this, that we go through this experience with Scorpio, is possibly, like I said, this is a little bit out of my jurisdiction. But I think it's possibly to prepare us. We all are going to have our day one day, and a lot of us have experienced the death of close ones. So it kind of gives us a little bit of preparation for when that time does come. And also, reminds us that even though we do suffer a miniature death and we do lose loved ones, life does go on. It's a cycle. There are new births, and we'll get through it. You'll rise from the ashes like the phoenix. So that's going to be it for my Scorpio defense case. And I hope after listening to this you know what the lawyers do when they talk. Listen to this, that you walk away from this feeling a little bit more understanding about the Scorpio energy and see that not all is as it appears to be. So, thanks for watching. Not guilty.